You're listening to All the Best from FBI Radio 94.5. I'm Gabriella Acaria. Is there a natural space that you go to feel at home? For me, it's beach rock pools. So this week, we'll guide you through all of these waterways and other natural places that need to be protected. And I want to start by acknowledging that the land and waterways that I'm recording from is stolen and Gadigal land. I pay my respects to Gadigal elders past and present, and also recognise that the area where FBI Radio is situated, Redfern, has long been a place of storytelling, strength, resistance and resilience for First Nations communities. So, as I was talking about, rock pools. I love dipping into a shallow body of water, climbing all of the rocks and watching over the sea horizon like I'm a sailor. But lately, I've been thinking about living in a city and how it means that we aren't spending enough time in nature and therefore caring for it. The Yarra River in Melbourne has been going through a lot of overdevelopment and it's been leaving the fauna in distress. But it shouldn't be this way. Nature is a place that can feel like home, and we have a responsibility to protect it.
Listening to a flying fox colony is really hearing one of the last fragments of ancient acoustic Australia, if you will. What you're seeing in a flying fox colony every evening is the re-performance of a piece of natural theatre that's been happening every night for the last 3 million years. We're looking at the Australia that the megafauna looked up and saw. If we were ever to lose that, we would have lost a really major part of the magic of this big island continent. The camp can be absolutely dead silent when all the bats are asleep. And then you'll just start to hear like a chirruping and a trilling of individuals as they wake up. Groups of noisy youngsters in various parts of the camp that spend lots of time talking. Why sleep when you could be talking? Like any other teenager, they spend lots of time chattering to each other and play fighting and so forth while the adults are asleep. So the sun has gone below the horizon and then the entire camp will be awake shortly after that. It's a bit like surround sound. They are very vocal animals. They're the third most vocal mammal after humans and cetaceans, whales and dolphins and so forth. So they talk a lot. Not as much as us, but they do talk a lot. It's been said that the sound of a flying fox colony is like the sound of a football grand final. And then they begin to fly out in numbers that used to blacken the skies. And they've got a fantastic sense of smell, so they can smell when the trees are flowering and they can follow that scent in the wind at night. When they put their head in the flowers, of course, they get covered in pollen. So they put their head in one flower, they get covered in male pollen, and then they'll fly 20 kilometres to another tree, put their head in a female flower, and hey presto, you have the sexual reproduction of trees. So this is a really critical ecological service that the bats provide, and the bats have been doing this for 3 million years. The flying fox camps and the flying fox presence are engines of biodiversity, and the sound of that engine is their vocalisations en masse and 100,000 strong. Before sunup, they return to their branch, the spot that they had when they left the camp, and then they'll wrap themselves up in their wings and then go to sleep. And then they'll be silent. I decided to help the flying foxes years ago because they are under threat here in Melbourne. We've lost well over 95% of the grey-headed flying fox since 1900. Pre-human Australia was absolutely teeming with wildlife, and it would have sounded like a million orchestras all going off at once every single night and every single morning, with the birds waking up and the bats going to sleep. And I think the European arrival has seen an impoverishment of the richness of sound that is available in the world simply because of the destruction of so much habitat and the loss of so many species. The bats are susceptible to extreme heat, so the increased frequency of heat waves and climate change-driven heat events is causing a huge mortality in flying fox camps. So we can lose up to 4,000 or 5,000 bats in a day or two. So the 2019-2020, the mega fires hit as well. During the heat waves, the sky is dark during the daytime, the smoke is so thick. It reached 46 degrees. You hear the thud, 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 thud throughout the colony as bats fall from the trees dead onto the ground or falling onto each other. So live bats falling onto dead bats, then sort of being suffocated by bats above them. It's a shocking thing to witness. When you're working in extreme heat waves, you're already exhausted yourself because of the heat, and to carry a 50-kilo pack, to be spraying animals, to be carrying animals to resuscitation stations for rehydration and for care in those events, and knowing that as hard as you work, you can only take a drop from the bucket of suffering. You can only save a small handful. So we save hundreds, but we lose tens of thousands. At the end of a difficult day in a heat wave, the mood is one of depression and exhaustion. They've been in an ocean of death and dying. You just can't be unaffected by that, but it does redouble your determination to try and do better on the next year and to push politicians and other actors to move more quickly on issues around climate change. We know that 50 degrees Celsius is on its way. It's going to happen. And when 50 degrees arise in Melbourne over summer, it will kill them all. I think the only chance that the bats have got if we have sprinklers in place in the colony to help cool the area. So sprinklers are our last best chance of keeping the species alive, and with them, one of the great engines of biodiversity and ecological health and regeneration. If the flying foxes become extinct or even diminished anymore, we will be greatly impoverished. We'll no longer hear their voices in the environment. We'll no longer hear their chattering in the trees at night as they talk to each other about who's going to get the best piece of fruit and who's going to get the best flower. And I think we will have stolen from future generations a great treasure.
You're listening to All the Best. I'm Gabriella Accaria. That first story is produced by Thomas Phillips. It was originally commissioned and aired on BBC Shortcuts. We're so excited for Shortcuts coming back next year. Some people feel so connected to nature, they feel a duty to investigate what's going on themselves and bring awareness to the impacts of climate change around Australia. Content warning for this story. It features descriptions of animals in distress.
I think my body relaxes as soon as I turn onto the peninsula up near Port Wakefield. It's like it's home. It's where I've been my entire life. I grew up over at Foul Bay on the southern side of the Yorke Peninsula. It's remote, but it's just surrounded by some of the most beautiful coastlines in the state. We're blessed with empty beaches, no footsteps. So yeah, we just spent every summer down here on the sand flats, and again, surfing, snorkeling, swimming. Over at Foul Bay, where I grew up, we had this combination of big seagrass meadows and shallow reefs. So you'd have all of your seagrass species, your whitings and your toadfish and your pufferfish, and then your reefy species, you'd see blue devils, underledgers and wobbegong sharks, crayfish, abalone. That is baby wobbegong shark. It's teeth actually, that's hectic. What else? Big blacklip abalone. Then you jump across to this Corny Point side and there's sea dragons out on the seagrass meadows. When my fiancée and I first kind of moved down here, we went snorkeling out the front of our shack here at Corny Point and came across a juvenile leafy sea dragon, and we just lost track of time. I think we were there for about 3 hours just watching this sea dragon. The way they float and vanish while you're looking at them. You smell that? Seeing all the weedy sea dragons come in, that's probably been one of the hardest experiences through the bloom. A couple of months ago, we were walking out in front of the shack here at Corny Point. Absolutely idyllic night. Water was like glass. The Posidonia, the seagrass fruit, were all floating in, and in that fruit came a leafy sea dragon floating in on the tide, and it was just one of those. Yeah, that your heart just gets ripped out of your chest. Seeing those die is pretty intense. Put it in perspective, I found 2 weedy sea dragons on the beach in my whole life, and now I've found probably 500 and I never want to find another one again. I'm just a local bloke. I'm an aquatics instructor, manage a caravan park, and lately I'm a citizen scientist. So I was working at Port Vincent and then driving home to Foul Bay, and it was affecting both places at the same time. I rocked up to work and there was a Port Jackson shark that was maybe 20 centimetres long, blood coming out of its gills, suffocating on the boat ramp, and that was the first mortality that I saw. The water here was green, and it stank, and our eyes would have been hurting, and we would have been coughing by now. Those first few days were just like the entire ecosystem. The entire bay had died, and everything was coming in. So all of the sea dragons, all the Port Jackson sharks, all the skates, all the fish, tens of thousands of fish, the worms, the Sidians, all your sea stars, urchins, everything. That's the spine of a pencil urchin. That's one of its legs. And no one knew. Like, nobody knew. We were seeing things we'd never seen before. Like, we've both spent hours and hours and hours underwater, and we're coming across species that we didn't know existed in our local waters. We're hearing rumours of algal blooms. There's Dad and I that are just like freaking out. Yeah, we started hitting beaches from Edithburgh back towards Foul Bay and finding some signs. Some beaches looked fine. Then we didn't realise we were doing it on the wrong tides. We knew that if we didn't go out and take photos, that night on the tide it's gone. Just intense. Really intense. And that now, I don't know if there'd be one left out there. They're black, big whelks. I, funnily enough, was driving home from Port Vincent and stopped to get a coffee on the way home, and Dr. Mike Bosley was there. He's a marine scientist. Seeing Mike also led to us having a community forum and I had slides of just, well, what we'd seen. My take on it and what my role was at that time was you guys need to see what we are seeing. You need to feel what we're feeling. I think it was necessary at the time because people that were in the area were avoiding the beach because they didn't want to see it. And I was probably mad because it's like, well, you don't have a choice. It's here. If I have to see it, you have to see it too.
When it's bad, it's like this high yellow, looks like. Well, when it was really bad, all of these little bays and stuff were just stacked up, filled
I've
up.
started speaking about tangible things, marine heat waves, bleaching events, seagrass die-offs. It's about localising it. And this is happening 10 kilometres away from you. I just got sad when I saw the beach full of dead fish, and now I'm here. And I've spoken to the Environment Minister, and I am the person that everyone sends their photos and reports to. And I think it's just because I care.
Most people don't look and go, oh, that died with its creature in it.
And people want someone to care.
Yeah, we now just scour beaches for signs of the bloom.
I've been in at Port Vincent recently to kind of assess damage in the recovery, and it's pretty grim. There are some beautiful signs of recovery, but the scale of what's gone.
Now it's just all the shells that are left, so you can tell the creature died in this.
Versus the scale of what's slowly coming back is frightening.
Metallic black slug that throw themselves over the shell.
I feel like this is my first taste of the rest of my life and the rest of my daughter's life. That's how it feels. Sorry.
You're listening to All the Best, proudly supported by the Art Gallery of New South Wales. I'm Gabriella Accaria. That story is produced by our executive producer, Mel Bakewell, and it was recorded on location on Narungga country. Water is the element that I feel most connected to, and I always have. I'm not the only one that seems to feel this way. This next story features a collage of voices that guide us along Campbell's Creek on Dja Dja Wurrung country.
I feel very honoured to be sitting where I'm sitting in a land that has the illusion of harshness at times, but is so bountiful and full of such abundance.
Yeah, I'd come in here for years and years and might have only ever seen one or two other people over a period of 10 years. It was that kind of hidden gem in the landscape.
I'm only about 50 metres from the road. We'd just be amongst the trees and the sound of the birds. It's beautiful.
There's a lot of beautiful bird life around me at the moment, talking to us, communicating with us.
I often find myself coming down here just before I go to bed in the dark and just sitting and listening. And I just love that there's this wildness so close to home.
Just got this kind of air about it of this is country that's in good nick.
You can hear the frogs. There's several species calling right now. Banjo frogs or pobblebonks. I used to think it was one frog going bobble-bonk, but the males, they'll start off with a bonk, and all the other males try and get as close to that first bonk as they can, and it goes bobble-bonk. And the last one is the most attractive to the female. And so there's this thing to get really close, but to sort of be the last as well. That's when I fell for Warwick, my partner, when we went for a walk, and he could make the right bonk to get all the frogs chorusing along after him. So, wow.
Do you know what that is, Tavish? I can hear the pardalote, but that sort of pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, I think that might be a shining bronze cuckoo.
Ah.
Because they got lots of different calls.
It was that.
That's it.
Well, that's confusing because that was the cuckoo. And learning bird calls can be tricky. It's basically really hard. What do you reckon, Tavish?
Yeah. Takes a while.
Takes some time. There's the yellow-faced honeyeater again.
This 30 or 40 years ago just wasn't here. It was just a completely denuded landscape since the gold rush in the 1850s, where every tree in sight was ripped up and it was all of the ground was unearthed.
I love to be able to just spread the seed and walk away. Sometimes the creek has a flood or a big flow and the seed that you just spread around got washed away. It's like, oh well, try again next year. Yeah, we've actually made a real difference to what was once a disgusting landscape. You can hardly believe how different it is. It's terrific.
I'm always excited by the changes in the creek after the rain. You know, the bigger trees that have been pushed around and maybe taken on a big lean after a lot of water's gone through. You know, over time how they just reconfigure themselves and accommodate their new posture.
My life besides country is like constantly moving and is a place that feels like quicksand of where I have to constantly surrender and adapt. I found this place because I needed the safety of the trees. I needed a place where I could feel secure. And I often feel more heard and loved by country than humans, to be totally honest.
I think I retreated into nature with a difficult family life, a lot of family kind of breakdown going on, and I got a memory of just looking into a world of moss on a rock, watching the ants moving through and realising this was just like a huge forest when I got my eye down on that scale, and the insects in there, tiny worlds just in the bush near my home. The mind switches off and you're just there in that place. I'm always noticing their death by a million cuts of urban development, pasture grasses, human changes that we've been making. And there's this huge grief as I kind of return to what feels like friends from my childhood. But then, I don't know, I think you can't live with that grief all the time. And also, wow, look at what's here, and shift my thinking, feeling life towards celebrating what is and what survived and what exists. One little shrubby pea like that, it's a world of magic in there.
Whoa, fishing for fish! Fishing for fish! Didn't catch any fish, but I've only like...
My kids come down here and they race their wooden boats and climb over logs and collect cicada shells. And I love that they're forming these memories that they will have when they're adults, that hopefully will anchor them and remind them of the kind of joy that they had in a place like this.
I feel privileged to be out on country.
When you're just in it, really experiencing it, and you're part of it.
How many layers there are, how many ways of getting to know the creek.
Take your shoes off and feel country, not a country underneath your feet, and remind you that you're home.
That we can learn to listen for the quiet but ever-present humming of life here.
It seems noisy, but it also seems really very quiet.
You're listening to All the Best. I'm Gabriella Accaria. That story is produced by Rob Law, and it was recorded on location in Jar Jar Wurrung country. And if you love hearing about waterways, or just audio stories in general, keep listening to All the Best for audio adventures from around the corner and around the country. New episodes drop Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Sydney time, and you can find scores of local stories in our archive at allthebestradio.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to learn how to make a radio story, get in touch. We're on Instagram at allthebestradio or online, allthebestradio.com. All the Best is made at FBI Radio on Gadigal land, and it features producers, stories and voices from unceded Aboriginal lands across so-called Australia. We're made possible by the Community Broadcasting Foundation, and we're sponsored by the Art Gallery of New South Wales. Kwame Slusher is our production manager. Katarina Frogger-Matos is our community and events coordinator. The All the Best executive producer is Mel Bakewell. Imogen Brosnan is our digital media trainee, and a special shout out to all of our amazing volunteers. Shining Bird composed our theme music, and Annie Hamilton designed the artwork. You can find our full archive of more than 700 episodes at allthebestradio.com. I'm Gabriella Acaria. Thank you for listening.